Hello, everybody. This is Gadi, and welcome to our first Community Spotlight.
Hello guys, what is going on?
Community Spotlights will be segments where we take a look at what the community has been up to. We'll showcase some ships and share some general building tips. Since this is our first installment, and many of you had so many questions, we decided to dedicate this whole episode to answering them. We received many questions like when will the game be out or when will this feature be added. We cannot answer those questions at the moment because the game is still way too early in development, but hopefully you could give us some more information.
Yeah, I can give maybe a little bit more information on the timeline, but basically, as you know, so the game is really in full development, so we're not close to pre-alpha. I say pre-alpha, but it means that the real alpha is quite far away. And to continue development, I will need to do a Kickstarter, so very soon. So hopefully in the next month or maybe in July. So I just have a few more stuff that I want to show, and then to work on the PR stuff for the Kickstarter basically. And then depending on the depending on how well the Kickstarter went, there will be something like at least 6 months of work, I think, before I can get the game on Steam. So it's a very rough estimate, so obviously it will most likely change. But yeah, we are talking.
So yeah, we cannot give exact dates because it's just too vague.
Yeah. So first half of next year, most likely. So maybe a bit more depending on how well the Kickstarter went. Knowing that, I will most likely do a private testing phase for the backers that are interesting in that. So before the game is officially on sale on Steam, and it will be an early access an early access launch, because I think that what suits the best for this kind of game. I don't think that's good for every type of game out there, but for voxel building game, I think it's really a good thing to have a player input and build the game as player are playing it.
So access is a bit of a buzzword since there are many low effort submissions and frankly shitty games out there. But we are aiming at giving you guys the best possible experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And start with the questions if you'd like.
Yeah.
So these are a bit personal, I guess. They are kind of in an order, yes. So, Anonymous asks, does he prefer to be called Tsuna, Tsunamayo, or Francois?
So whichever you want. So Tsunamayo is just really a stupid nickname I choose, before starting the project. Basically, so I can answer also to the second question at the same time because they are a bit related. So this is the name of what we call onigiri in Japan. So it's like a small rice with for in the case of tsunamayo with some tuna, so the fish, and mayo. So it's really good, and I like to eat that. And so that was my pseudo, but it's not at all a pseudo that I'm using for 10 years or something like that. So I'm perfectly fine if you prefer to call me François. I mean, I don't have any real preference on that.
So, since you already said that, we already answered the second question. TTM M3 asks, why Tsunamayo, the nickname? So yeah, he already answered that. Thank you. So we can move on to the next question. Tatsunobu asks, when will testing be open again?
Yeah, so this is something that I've been asked a lot. So the thing is, right now I'm really focusing on delivering a new exciting feature for you guys, just to show basically the potential of the game for the Kickstarter. So really cool looking feature. So that means that unfortunately I don't have really time to focus on bug fixing or just improving the overall experience. And this I will start to do it again after the Kickstarter, when I will have to stabilize all of that basically. So it means that most likely I will I will do that after the Kickstarter, so you will have to wait to hold on for a few months before I open up the testing phase. So yeah, sorry, it was really unexpected to have that many how do you say application, and so I was a bit behind under the water. Yeah, really too many application, and I can't really review them and add them like that. So it was a bit not anticipated. So hopefully it should be better in a couple of months. And yeah.
Okay, we can move on to Karan's jet question. His question is, what is the current roadmap for the development of the game? Are there plans for a more recently popular open alpha release early access program? Whilst, in addition, what can be said about the multiplayer segment of the game and its plausible release window?
Okay, so I answer a bit to that question in the opening. So yes, we'll do early access release on Steam. So like pretty much every game of this genre, basically. So the multiplayer, so as you know, it's still quite bug. I mean, it's there. So the foundation is there. It's really lacking some comfort feature and some bug fixing, because this is really something that is tough to test when you are developing on your own, and so we need to spend more time on that. But it will definitely come with a multiplayer, but it's just too early to say how many the player cap and this kind of thing. And for the roadmap, so basically, the idea is that I started the game, I mean, to develop the game, working on the building aspect, because this is where I had some idea, something I wanted to test, like the brick system, for example. And this is also the most heavy part, because you have a lot of feature to develop, and a lot of interactivity. You need to save the player construction, and there is a lot of stuff to do with the logic and such. So this is going well. It's not finished. I mean, still lacking some refactoring or optimization, let's say, but it's getting there. And at the same time, I also started the exploration phase, okay, which is really important. And so in the short term to medium term, I will also start to focus more on that exploration phase. So I will bring more content. So for example, in the coming day or weeks, I will reveal the nebula, for example, to explore in the galaxy. I will do some refactoring, like for example the holo map is not really friendly, or the flying model, or the navigation basically is not really satisfactory. Yeah, yeah. But it's just I didn't spend enough time on it, so it's perfectly normal. And so I will definitely spend more time. I mean, switch my focus from the building aspect to the exploration one, and then I will move on to add actual, let's say, traditional gameplay. So typically that means something that looks more like what is Elite is doing. So to spawn basically a station where you can with built-in board, so you can do some trading, some mining, some booty hunting and things like that.
Yeah, missions.
Yeah, exactly, some mission. So that is the, let's say, the current roadmap for the next 6 months or so. And that will be also the, let's say, the scope for when the game will be on early access. And so I think basically that there is really two ways to develop this kind of game. So you either start in space and with a strong building component, and then once you get everything, you start to tackle the survival aspect, and this is the way I chose. Or you can do the other way around, so you start with the survival, so on the planet and stuff like that, and then you move on later on to space basically. So yeah, so that's the approach.
Just like space engineers and planet nomads.
Yeah,
So space engineers, they started with the strong building mechanics and space, and later on they added planets.
Yeah.
And planet nomads, they they started on planets and then moved on to space.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really like space engineer and also Elite, I think, is did that a little bit, and maybe StarMade also. So yeah, you start in space with the strong creative, because survival, you only gonna survive for like 20 to 30 hours, but the building aspect can keep people interesting for 100 of hours. So that was the reasoning behind, let's say. And so it means that that planetary technology will come after, and survival also will come after.
So, Mr. Carbu asks, what would you like to do for planets? Animal, human life, plants, water, maybe atmosphere?
Okay, so yeah, for planets, so I'm quite ambitious, because I don't want like baby. I want planet that had really a depth to the gameplay. So planet where you can travel with your rover or fly around, and so I want really a good planet quality. So that's why it will take time, and doing it right now won't add that much to the game as it is right now, so that's why it will have to hold a bit. But yeah, so definitely atmosphere, and I have a lot of different atmosphere shader implementation that I would like to test. So, and I can't wait to do that, because I really this is the kind of work I love to do. So yeah, atmosphere definitely, water also. So at first I think there will be like moon-like or Mars-like kind of planet, and then in a second time, if there is still people interested in the game at that point, because it's a bit more far in the future, definitely some animal life, and I really wanted to give a shot at procedural life generation, basically. And I have some crazy idea of gameplay around that, basically, where you do like Jurassic Park. So you analyze the DNA of your animal, and then you start to mess up with the DNA to create new species, and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's in the far future, let's say.
So, Breeze Builder asks, is Linux or OS X support a possibility in the near or distant future? Please?
Yeah, and add a please. So yeah, I'm sorry, but that won't be really the focus, unfortunately, because it will be really too time consuming and really complicated to test. And I really build the game around DirectX 11, and so OS X for sure, I think it's not possible, and Linux, yeah, I think it will be.
Well, maybe through Wine?
Yeah, through Rhine, but I think some people tested, and it was not really working well. So I prefer to say no, because I really have a lot of stuff to develop. So, and since the game is really relying heavily on the shader technology and things like that, it's really harder to do. So I prefer to say no. But the dedicated server will I will try to have it working on Linux, because there is no front. I mean, there is no graphical stuff. So
Okay, so Applesinsoft asks, how will you balance power between different ship sizes and prevent rampant ship min-maxing? Will power generators require a certain mass for a certain number of generators or something to that effect? Will ship systems be very simplified so that there is not that much to min-max? Or do you have a definite idea of how power, thrust, weapons and other things like that are going to work in the final game?
I'm not sure to understand completely that question, on especially on min maxing. Uh, so what can I say is that yes, so every block will have an impact on the mass, and especially the generator block or other block that add really functionality to your spaceship, like the shield or the engine, or things like that, will weight a lot more than just the standard hull block or the decorative block. so that if you really stack a lot of block, your ship will still be quite heavy, so that it won't be that maneuverable. Okay, so if you want a small fighter that turn very fast, that accelerate very fast, and things like that, you will have to keep the number of generator or engine a bit low, and then there will be some block that can help you to improve your maneuverability or things like that, but you will never be able to transform like a big heavy cruiser into with the maniability of a fighter basically. So I will use like a logarithmic curve, so that you the gain, the maximum gain you can have will only be a relative, let's say, to your base stat. So I don't know if it's clear or not. And yeah, and for how the power is working, and the weapon, and thrust, it will be quite standard. I think I will have a different power system. What I really want to have is a different tier level. So basically, you start to craft kind of bit low level power generator and things like that, and then so typically that requires some fuel and stuff like that, and then you start to be able to craft more powerful generator from rarest elements to give the player an incentive to explore and find a rare material basically.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. Dread Magus asks, will there be robot pets in the game to craft, etc.?
Yeah, so actually I really want to do that at one point. It's not really high on my priority list, so typically this is most likely something yeah, that will come post early access. But I think it's okay. But yeah, I really want to give basically an AI. Yeah, so you can basically craft yeah, artificial intelligence robot or drone, and
maybe alien pets?
and maybe when I have indeed animal life, yeah, to be able to tame some of the species will be definitely something interesting.
That's pretty cool. So we can move on to the next question. So Corbolco asks, if ever or when will we see the following? Gravity, pressurization, modular or modifiable energy producing systems, example from the depths, detachment of unconnected bricks, multiplayer, more systems that can be automatized or require other people to operate, resource gathering, processing, NPCs and NPCs control factions, player control factions, mod support, early access, stations and station building.
Okay, so that's quite a long list, so I will take them. Yeah, I will take them one by one without expanding too much. But gravity, I mean, there is already artificial gravity just bugged, it's just completely bugged for months, so I really need to fix it. But yes, pressurization, yeah.
So our gravity isn't too realistic. It's planar, it works with a generator.
Uh, this I will do. I will give the, yeah, I will add it. I'm not sure how. I mean, if I do just a cheat, so you put a gravity block with a correct vector, let's say, or if I try to do it in more realistic way, I will see. I will test it. So pressurization, most likely no, because it's quite complicated and we have a lot of moving stuff in Skywander, and don't try to go the realistic route. So most likely, maybe in the far future, but on the short term for sure, no. Modular, it will take really a lot of time to develop because of all the moving part basically. I mean, if I add only a standard block and then really well identify the door or things like that, it will be easier. But in the game, you can do a door with pretty much anything. So it's yeah, it's really.
It's still way too early to decide.
But yeah, never say never. But so modular or modified energy. So I don't know from the depth. So I don't really know what it means. Unfortunately, I don't know if you know that game.
I do not. I haven't played it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think he's referring to a system in another game. So I'm not sure what it means. Maybe it just mean you can put add-on on your generator, and this is something definitely I'm considering to give more depth to that system by adding some add-on blocks. So there will be like a basic generator block, and then you put to the side a different block that will give a boost, for example. So yes, most likely yes. Detachment of unconnected bricks, so I don't know exactly. So maybe it means that when you break a link, the right now if you break a link, basically the children entity just disappear, but it's just because I didn't spend time doing that. But I will uh, I will add it, no problem. Multiplayer, so yes. More system that can be automated, requiring other people to operate. Yes, I really want you to play with your friend in same spaceship, where there will be a pilot, some people manning a turret or weapon system or thing like this. Resource gathering and processing, so yes also. So I want to have some mining, and then you have to process basically the mining output, and so you will put some piping between some block to transform the resources, and to be able to create like mini factory to craft a block. NPC faction, yes also. Player controlled faction, so not for now. But this is definitely something that will interest a lot of people, but that won't be the I mean high priority on the list, so not on the short term. Mod support also, but that will depend on how well the game is doing, obviously. Early access, yes, and station building, yes.
Actually, station building is already in the game.
Yeah, so we'll have stations, so you can I really want to have a station as a hub for people, so you can take mission, buy new schematics or new ship, and anything like this.
So, we can move on to the next question again. So, Fan asks, is a ship integrated simple retro virtual machine like in Notch's 0x10Cs to remotely program and control ships, exchange programs, minigames, and so on, something that would be interesting to add to your game? Why? Why not?
Okay, so I really like this idea. This is very appealing, and I wanted to think how to do that at one point, but uh, it's not something I will do on the short term for sure. So most likely post early access, because it's a bit. I mean, something that a few people will love a lot and do a lot of stuff, but that won't appeal to a big percentage of the community base. But I think it could add, even if there is 5% of people doing that, it could add value to all the people if you start selling your program on station, for example. So it could be interesting. So yes, but not on the on the short term, unfortunately. But I mean, if you look at all the other games, at StarMade or Space Engineer, and even Elite, so they have been in development for like 3 or 4 years. So if I get to develop Skywanderer for that that period of time, and I really want to, at one point, this is definitely something I will have a look into.
So, again, how do you envision player interactions within your game? What do you want it to feel to be part of such a universe? What would make it special, different from games like StarMade that can feel lonely at times?
So I have nothing against that loneliness feeling. Actually, I think it's a great feeling for a space game. You get that a bit in Elite, and and really what I try to create, with that galaxy, so it will be the same galaxy for everybody, is to have points that are really busy, with trade route, pirates, and station, or even war between faction, and some other place in the galaxy that are really more lonely, that are more remote, or like the outer rim and things like that. So to have really a different of a feeling between the region in the galaxy. And so yeah, so player interaction, so they will be able to play together and fight together, or to fight each I mean to have some versus fighting, let's say. So yeah, that's the basic.
So Fan asks, it's way too early, but I'd like to know how you would make gravity work planet-wise. Because as far as I understand, gravity in your game is relative to an axis and planets are round.
Yeah. So I can tell you that in code this is not really complicated. I mean, the axis can be anything, so I just have to compute the axis. And in the planet, the axis is just the center of the planet minus your position. And then this is on just what you need to do in in code, so that's really easy to compute. So no worries on that.
So Fan asks, battle system wise, so far we've seen that lasers destroy ship blocks per blocks. What's your ideas and thoughts about damage, how it makes sense gameplay wise, and what alternatives are you considering? In StarMate, I ended up thinking that although it sounded fun, it's not that great in the end. We think of ships from a system perspective, not a block one, and losing one important block suddenly makes the battle pointless despite our ship's integrity still being good.
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. I saw there have been a lot of discussion on the Discord, and basically there is two school of thoughts. So one saying that it's a voxel game and we need to destroy block by block, and then one that say no, let's keep the hull integrity and have like let's say a HP score on each ship, and then when there is no HP, the ship blows up. So my feeling was more to do the voxel way, because I wanted to add actually a strategical depth, so a bit like FTL. So for example, when you start to attack a big cruiser, a big enemy cruiser, you can decide to either target the weapon turret, for example, or you can try to immobilize the ship by shooting on the engine, or even you can try to board the ship and destroy the energy core inside, or really, so it can have a lot of different way to attack that ship, uh, knowing that there will be shield, of course, so all the damage won't be at first on won't destroy the ship. And then, because I think it will be very boring to rebuild block by block after each combat, there will be some automatic repair drone, or nano repair drone, or something like that, so you don't need to rebuild hand by hand every block destroyed. But this is definitely a good question, and quite frankly, I think we need to test some stuff, and if it's not working, we can either fix it or completely scrap it and start a new approach. And this is why I kind of want to have a community around the game, because this is the kind of thing we need to figure out by just playing and testing stuff. So we'll see. But that's definitely an interesting question.
So Fan asks, concerning the survival aspect, my opinion is that having to manage oxygen, food needs make traveling in space challenging and entertaining. You can't go on forever on an empty stomach. It also gives missions, trade, for example recovering ice from asteroids, food from planets or merchants, a sense of purpose. What's your thoughts about it and how do you envision that aspect of your game?
Okay, so this is definitely something I want. Again, it won't be on the short term. because like I said first, I will focus more, let's say, on the late game component, so to do some trading, some fighting and stuff. But little by little, I will add some components that will allow us to converge to that survival mode, let's say. But I really need first, let's say, a planetary technology, so it will be definitely down the road, but maybe a bit more far. So typically post early access, I think. Yeah, but we'll get to there. If you guys are still playing the game and still interested by it, we'll get to there to that eventually.
Okay, so Fan asks, do you plan on building a player-based economy in any way? Now, how do you want it to work, like merchants, traders, pirates, asteroid miners, crafting?
Okay, so just to, so I'm not sure on which sense he was asking that. So typically, I won't go into the MMO like, or with the virtual. I don't know how you say that, player-based economy, like in EVE Online, for example, because that will be just,
So kind of like Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen.
or yeah, or Star Citizen, and because that will be just too complicated, and that's not really the. I don't want really the game to be a simulation or thing like that, but I want to give an economy, let's say, in the game. So typically, there will be you will be able to trade for and sell resources and buy resources, and obviously the price won't be the same in each part of the galaxy, and there will be some kind of a logic to that. Some region of the galaxy that will be more rich in resources and stuff like this. So this is how I plan to do, and basically, so if you're more into just mining, you'll be able to sell your mining output. If you are more into trading, you'll be able to do some trading, and so that will be the base. So yeah, light economy, but not fully connected, let's say.
Manifestophilus asks, what are your thoughts on character customization? Will you make templates available for character skins? I would love to contribute some skins and accessories if necessary, but I have to know what dimensions they need to be in. Other than that, keep up the good work. We're counting on you.
Thanks, thanks for the encouragement. So yeah, for character customization, so obviously it's something very important. So I need to redo the character actually. So that was the big major feedback from the Green Knights, is that the character look like shit basically. So it's fine. So I'm redoing it, and it won't be a complete revolution. It's more like a fixing of what was wrong with the current one, and I will ask people feedback very soon. But yeah, so we will have to wait that let's say I stabilize my character technology. But yeah, so I will give some tools, some modding tools. So I'm not sure to what extent, like if only be texture, if it will be even models. So I'm not really completely sure on what it will look. And yes, so on customization, I will also add, I think at one point, some let's say decal. So you can have like one decal for per player, plus maybe one decal for your faction, and that kind of thing. But yeah, modding tool will depend a lot on the game. If the game is really catching some interest, and there is a lot of community around, and I will definitely have a look into that.
So, as we've seen in the latest devlog, you've added some host blocks that you connect, and there's a host in the middle. So VIPM asks, will host blocks be usable for transferring items fluids between ships?
Yeah, actually, that was my goal. So I think I will use them to in terms of gameplay later on. So typically when I work on on weapon system, so you will have to feed some energy into your weapon, and you could use that host block to link the energy block, let's say, to the weapon, or the yeah, that kind of thing. So definitely I will have to look into that. So to really transfer, like to do factory, I think I will use a bigger tube, you know. So there is also like a big tube in the game. So I think I will use this tube to link the different transforming block, let's say, between each other. So yeah, that's a good idea.
So this is the last question, and Sam J asks, what other ship systems do you plan to add? You've mentioned scanners, and I was wondering whether shields, energy generation, and usage crew were also planned for the future. Either way, this is my currently most anticipated game.
Thanks. Yeah, so definitely shield. So energy generation, obviously. I mean, this is the thing I should have done for quite some time right now, but I will add definitely, so energy generation. So you will be able to store energy also in some blocks. So depending on what kind of ship you want to create, some shield, obviously, and then yeah, so some scanner, because yeah, the scanner will be quite important to either scan for threat or scan for resources, and it will be linked to the holographic display, uh, for sure. And yeah, I don't know, maybe there will be some stealth technology at one point, maybe not again on the short term, but we'll definitely have a look at it. And a lot of different weapon system. And I don't know if you have other idea in mind of system that I am forgetting, but yeah, so we'll definitely add all this one.
So thank you guys for staying with us. It's been almost 40 minutes. We hope that's enough, even if it's kind of too much to, get in one shot. But
Yeah, I tend to talk too much. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for your question. And don't hesitate to ask more on the Discord, or for the next one. I don't know if it's something you wanted to do at regular point.
we will have some links to our community in our description. We'll have some links to our forums and to our Discord server. I won't keep you guys any further, and I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.